Well, what's going on there? Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the 9 to noon presentation on a beautiful Wednesday in the neighborhood. The neighborhood would be FM 100.3 KFAN. Max Fuller in for Nordo today, and I'm Paul Allen. And we begin the radio show, and I believe you also can watch this at KFAN.com with Chris Finch, head coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves, courtesy of Second Harvest Heartland and Prize Picks. Chris is nice enough to come into studio, as he does yearly, to put a wrap on the Timberwolves season, discuss the NBA Finals, and much more. And when you walked in, I'm like, what's a good-looking guy like you doing in a place like this? And holy cow, good morning.
Good morning, PA. Thanks for having me in.
Right on, brother. They tell me in league circles or in sports-loving circles, when the New York Knicks have a shot to win the title, which doesn't happen frequently, it trumps all with New York sports teams. I mean, America's or world's most famous arena. Big market, big media market, but you know, when I've been told that so many times that I'm like, are you guys forgetting the Yankees are in? The Yankees are in that. Do you see it like when the Knicks? Because you're an East Coast guy like me. When the Knicks are really good, I mean, is it like that in New York City?
For sure, it is. I mean, one thing we like to talk about. We'll have these debates on our staff sometimes. You know, is a certain city a baseball town, a football town, a basketball town, and I would say New York's probably above anything else. It's a great baseball town, but I think it's above anything else. It's a basketball town. Whether we see it when St. John's is really good,
right?
You know, so and the history of basketball in the city, feeds that too. Whether it be Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, or you know, any of their great point guards that have come out in the '80s. So you know, I think it's a basketball town, and it just builds around the Knicks. And you know, it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, whenever you and I discuss things, and Chris is nice enough, likewise for media relations mogul Aaron Freeman, to arrange for Chris to join 9 to noon weekly, courtesy of Second Harvest Heartland and Prize Picks. And there are so many times that you and I will discuss something, and you'll do what you just did, and then I want to spend the next 10 minutes talking about Power Memorial High School and Lou Alcindor before he became Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You mentioned those New York City point guards. Well, I'm like, all right, well, how can I slide a Kenny Anderson line in here, Lloyd Sweet Pea Daniels? But I mean, the Rucker Park, the history's so rich there with basketball, huh?
It certainly is, and I think that's why it's such a great basketball town. And then, you know, the Knicks in the Garden, no matter, you know, whether they're good or they're not good or they're kind of in the middle, you know, the energy in there, it always feels like a playoff game. You know, courtside pregame. I'm not talking about the celebrities. You know, that brings a totally different element. I'm just talking about the energy around the court and the fans. They're super knowledgeable. They're into the game. There's not a ton of razzmatazz in a Knicks game. You know, it's about the game, and it's about the energy and the atmosphere that the fans bring. You mentioned, you know, you'll have debates with staff members about, all right, is this a football town? Is this a hockey town? Is this a baseball town? And so on. Baseball, you still really enjoy. And you and I are about the same age. I'm a couple of years older than you, but and I know you still really enjoy the strategery and the low key, slow chill that is baseball, right? I do. And like all sports, that element ramps up in the postseason where, you know, managerial decisions become far more important and impactful. But I love baseball. I love watching it live. You know, there's something about just being there live. For a long period of time, when I was living in Europe, I lost contact with the sport. And now that I've been back and have the opportunity to go to more games and just in the summer and the downtime, it's just such a relaxing thing for me to watch. Basketball I can't watch without being critical or seeing it through my own coaching lens.
Yeah.
Football and baseball aren't that to me. I can just watch it for enjoyment's sake. And I do try to watch as much football as I possibly can, but sometimes during the season I don't get to lock in the way that I want to. You know?
So off that with I've just heard it so many times from people I respect is that, no, I'm telling you, when the Knicks are this good, it resonates in the town every bit as much as the Yankees, more than the Giants and Jets and Rangers and Islanders and stuff like that. What about Philadelphia? I like with Philadelphia, say all, and that's the area where Chris is from. I would lay it out like this if they were all good. Tell me if I'm right. If they're all good, I'd go in that market, Eagles first, then Phillies, Sixers, Flyers. And you were there like when Bobby Clark was playing, right?
Yeah, it's a great hockey town. I might elevate them over the Sixers. Really? I'm not sure. Yeah,
Dr. J won a lot of hearts for a lot of years.
They did. There might be more Sixers fans if you're just counting heads. But the Flyers have a special place in that city's sporting,
Pantheon.
Pantheon, exactly.
So when you mentioned when you were in Europe, were you in England like 8 to 10 years?
I was in England 10 years. Yeah.
10 years, okay. So did you ever figure out cricket?
Because I did.
Because back to 2013, my first trip to London, the Vikings beat the Steelers at Wembley. And so I'm at Wembley, and I'm a music guy too, so I'm looking around there thinking Freddie Mercury and Queen and everything that took place with that. I mean, it's stadium immortality. I'm sure you've been there. But when you're there for, most recently, we with the Vikings were in Ireland for a week, and so we were there like, a week and a half, Ireland and England. You got Sky Sports, and Sky Sports is the bomb. Yeah. I mean, they really do a good job with Sky Sports. Until cricket comes on, and I'm like, I got no idea what's happening here. Like, what's the nuance with the game of? You said you figured it out. What's the nuance there?
Well, the first thing is when you learn any new sport, you got to learn the terminology. Mm-hmm. And so once I learned the terminology, it was easier to follow because, imagine if you came to the NFL for the first time and you didn't know what a down was,
right?
So yeah, cricket it's basically. Baseball where there's only two bases that you run between. Mm-hmm. It's the old pickle game. You remember when you run back and forth and you try not to get thrown out?
Yeah.
That's all.
Man in the middle thing.
Man in the middle.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing about cricket is you stay at bat and one person can stay at bat until they're out.
Wow.
So you can be up for hours.
Have you played?
Yes, we played. Yep.
Really?
Yep.
With the current situation with your knee, could you play now? and is your knee completely healed from that Phoenix Suns L?
My knee is completely healed. It's as good as it's going to get. Mm-hmm. And cricket's actually a good sport to play with a bad knee because you don't have to run a lot.
Right. So whether it's through the lens of a head coach like you are, or a basketball fan like you also are, will you watch tonight? With the Knicks after the Spurs beginning the NBA Finals.
I will watch tonight. I watched a lot of the Knicks Cavaliers series. Mm-hmm. I didn't watch as much of the San Antonio Oklahoma City series. I've said this in the past. It's for some reason emotionally it's hard to tie into the series just after you lose, particularly when you feel like you could have been there or you should have been there. Mm-hmm. But I'll watch the finals for sure. I'll watch the finals. And I think it should be an interesting one. I give San Antonio the edge tonight, not because they're home, but because
tonight or in the series.
I think New York has the edge in the series. I do think at some point their freshness and their experience, just older crew, will pay off. But tonight, you're going to be rusty when you've not played for so long. Mm-hmm. So anything could happen there. So I look for, a good game, a great series. We might give the edge to San Antonio tonight.
When a season ends, whether it's conference finals for you guys 2 consecutive years or San Antonio this year, is there, or how long does it take to find a certain degree of peace that comes with finality?
Yeah. For me, I usually can find it pretty quickly because there's nothing much you can do about it. This one bothered me a little bit more. I felt that going into Game 6, we tried to make some adjustments that were clearly not right. I kicked myself for doing it just because I felt we didn't probably need to be as extreme.
What did you do?
Well, I flipped the matchups around. You know, we put Rudy on Castle. We started with Julius on Wemby. We were trying to mitigate Wemby's hot starts, and we did a good job. But again, Castle got loose on us, and it wasn't a scheme that we were overly comfortable with. We've done it from time to time, and it maybe just wouldn't have been the time to do it. So looking back, I probably would not do it again. Of course, I would not do it again. So that one sat with me for longer than a normal end of season.
You don't seem like the type that would dwell. I mean, it's okay. You pushed the envelope. It didn't work.
Right.
So, I mean, how do you handle that?
Well, I dwell more during the regular season because I want to, be able to fix it for the next time. I think that's what, the dwelling is really all about, is like, how do we solve this problem? When the season is over, generally, I think we feel like we've exhausted everything that we could do, and maybe we certainly could be better, and the things we can do better. But, you kind of come to peace with that quickly. What happens in a series more than anything else, PA, is that one team bends the other team's will.
Yeah.
And over a series, if you're in a 6 or 7 game series, or even if you get swept, it happens very, very obvious and fast. So
does that mean, okay, we have enough film now and enough matchup related equity where we know that you know that we know that you know, but at the end of the equation, we know you want to do this and this way, and they attack it, or is that what you mean?
Of course, yeah, and sometimes you just may not have an answer.
Right.
You might not have an answer for a player, you might not have an answer for a concept or a scheme. You may know what you need to do,
but that's got to drive you crazy.
Yeah, and you may not. But this is the thing about the playoffs. Everyone talks about adjustments, the things that you need to make adjustment. You need to do this. Well, I think everyone can see what adjustments might need to be done, but a lot of the adjustments that work are really small, sometimes unseen. Sometimes it's physicality. Sometimes it's being just sharper on the things that you need to do. Little tweaks. Major tweaks, once in a while, they'll pay off. They might flip a series from time to time, for sure. That they're also important, but you also have to be able to execute what these adjustments are. If you don't have the personnel to do it, then, or you don't have the athleticism, the IQ, the strength, if you're missing something in that kind of equation, you're not going to be able to do it, no matter what everyone's saying about making adjustments.
And you can't lament injuries. I mean, the next man up mentality is cliched, but when you're in the postseason and DiVincenzo's giving you what he's given you, and then now, so we're watching the games with him and we're thinking, and then now he's gone.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy cow. That fire, that cohesiveness, the collaborative nature of how he makes others better. And Ant's missing games and, he's pushing through injuries. You can't lament that, can you?
It is a real dynamic, and it's a determining factor to championship runs right now in the NBA. Oklahoma City, as great as they are and were last year, the biggest thing that they were was healthy all the way through. Right. This year they weren't healthy all the way through. If you look at the playoffs in the West, just look at the guy. First of all, Luka never made it to the playoffs. Reeves joined halfway. Durant barely played.
Yep.
Gordon was knocked up halfway through.
Yep.
Anthony, Dante, so I'm missing somebody. So we just have tons, it's kind of basically it's a war of attrition now in the West. And,
and the Spurs with Fox and Harper had bumps and bruises, but not enough to keep them out.
Yeah. Fox missed a couple games to start that series, but they were obviously able to survive that, and they got him back.
So with Wemby, it's fair to say not only is he taller and longer than everybody, but he's smart. It seems his basketball IQ is quite high. Do you see it that way?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think he has got a good feel for the game. He's clearly learned and continues to learn the NBA game at a fast clip. They've done a great job of bringing him along in the right way. I think he's done a phenomenal job of cleaning up his shot selection offensively. He takes far more efficient and better shots in the flow. One of his weaknesses was, he didn't take a lot of really good shots, and he would miss it. He was a volume shooter and didn't make them all the time. And so he's done a really good job there. And, defensively, he's just a headache. His size, his length, his timing, his presence. He comes everywhere early. And, he makes plays defensively that we've never seen. And the amount of ground that he's able to cover. People go into the game and say, okay, I'm not going to be able to get to the rim, so I'll probably have to settle for the mid-range against him. But the dirty little secret is he absolutely destroys the mid-range.
Right.
So where people,
and that's what OKC wants to do.
Yeah, and where people think they're going to go to have some sort of advantage to get clean looks over him, he has the ability to be at the rim and close space, challenge or block shots in the mid-range. Mm-hmm. The mid-range numbers against him tend to be really ugly. And that's hard because most elite shot blockers, you kind of have to build that into your game a little bit,
Yeah, that's why I think like 3 weeks to a month ago, I brought up that topic with you about him being transcendent, and the word culture can be so trite and so overused in so many different ways. Likewise for transcendency and the word transcendent. And there's a running back who just came into the NFL named Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame, went to Arizona, and I just got super frustrated doing shows from the combine and up to the draft, hearing people say he's transcendent talent. And I'm like, well, you can't say that till he plays, and then they're comparing him to Bijan Robinson and the Falcons running back. And I'm like, well, Bijan's not transcending yet. So it's people want to use those glorifying words and terms so much. But it's true.
Oh, with him.
With Wembanyama. And the road I went down with you was, okay, Wilt Chamberlain might have been playing against a bunch of 5'9" guys with short pants that were too tight, but nevertheless, he was transcendent. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar with that sky hook made him transcendent. They could not stop it. And, unlike a lot of players in this day and age, when Kareem got mad, he got better. So it's like when some people get mad now, they go pear-shaped and they're just all flustered and it impacts their game. Other way with Kareem, that plays into it too. So I don't like to throw that term around, but that's why I did with you, and it was more defensively than offensively. He's transcendent talent.
He is transcendent talent, and just at the size and the ability to move, the motor, the care factor, the approach, the professionalism, it's all there. It's all there.
Chris Finch, head coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves, with a season closing chat with the 9 to noon radio show. It's 9:18. Good morning. With the NBA Finals, Chris, do you ever text or chat with Karl Anthony Towns, who, by the way, tore up the Cleveland Cavaliers?
Yes, we do. Absolutely, we do. And Cat stays in touch with a lot of his teammates here and coaching staff. And, I sent him congratulatory messages after they won the last round, talked about how good he looks and how happy I am for that.
That's awesome.
So we maintain a relationship for sure.
Because then correct me if I'm wrong here, and you've been so kind and so open with this radio show over the years. I'll never forget the chat we had years ago when Karl was just vociferously and loudly complaining about every single call and foul, just yelling. Everybody could hear it. And it was clear he was not getting anything close to the benefit of the doubt at that stage. I just know that you did a lot of work with him with that to get it to calm down, and it did. So that's something that's been a major part of his professional career moving forward.
Yeah, I think also great, self-awareness by Karl was when he moved to New York, knowing the spotlight that he would be under. And he's taken a lot of heat and a lot of criticism, unfairly so, since he's there. Yeah, I mean, they at times they've probably struggled to maximize him, for various reasons or whatever. And he's taken a lot of heat for that, and but they've really figured out what their best version looks like, playing oftentimes now through Karl more, utilizing his passing, which has always been elite.
Yeah, elite.
Yeah, elite. Yeah. And it's just been fun to watch him be a connector, and and you still have Brunson alongside him doing all the Brunson things, and you can go to that anytime you need we saw that at the end of game one for a quarter and a half, Brunson just takes over the game.
Yeah.
But largely down the stretch, right, going into the season, and they've really kind of tweaked the balance of their offense. And what's happened is not just Cat playmaking, flirting with triple doubles. Now OG is benefiting. Mikal Bridges, who, in the Atlanta series, people said it was a horrible trade. Now he's coming off averaging nearly 20 points in the conference finals. That's how fickle these things are. But it's all down to them really learning to share the offense the right way.
After a couple of seasons ago, when Anthony got all those technicals, missed that Utah game, I think you lost that game by 1, and end of the equation, you needed that win like you needed to breathe. So now into this year with Anthony, and he'll still outstretched arms and he'll still voice an opinion, but off what we said about Karl Anthony Towns and the work you and the staff and he put into calming down and then getting the benefit of the doubt with the calls. Are you noticing that with Anthony, that there was improvement this year, right?
Oh, great improvement. Yeah. Anthony's took a big step forward in a lot of leadership categories this season. Continues to really mature as an adult young person that carries through to his professional leadership abilities. I think when you're able to kind of just divorce yourself from the emotion of one missed shot and just get on to the next play and have that, you're able to really control a lot of your reactions if you think about it in that way. And, he's done that. So, and I know, a lot of times he probably still does get fouled. So nothing's changed on that end. He's controlling the things he can control a lot better.
Yeah, with the New York Knicks, you correct me if I'm wrong here. You had Josh Hart in New Orleans, right?
Yep, we did.
Yeah, he's such a unique player, isn't he?
He is.
What makes him unique?
Well, he's a possessions guy. So he gets, steals, loose balls, 50-50s, offensive rebounds, defensive rebounds, like all the things that you can kind of, he can make a huge impact, doesn't need the ball in his hands because he just goes and gets it. He's an incredible end-to-end player. He rebounds at a really, really high level, not just for his position, but also for his size.
Is he a guard or a small forward?
I mean, he's a small forward, really. He's like almost a quintessential small forward, but he has playmaking skills. He's a good passer. He's a willing passer. He's a pass-first guy. He's a connector. Every team needs a guy that can help, can impact at a high level, doesn't need the ball, and can connect the dots. And then he's willing to guard anybody, and he can at times guard 1 through 5.
Yep. So at one point you coached 3/5 of the Knicks starting lineup, right? Hart, OG, and Cat.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm familiar with all those guys.
Right. How well, speaking of familiarity, Chris Finch, coach of the Wolves, 9 to noon in studio. You can watch it at KFAN.com. How well did you know the late Rick Adelman, and what do you respect about his coaching acumen and career?
I mean, I got to know him a little bit. When I was hired on as the G League coach in Houston, he was still the head coach there. So had a little bit of, crossover with him at training camp or summer league or these types of things. And always very, very gracious, humble, nice man, incredibly polite. And what I really admired was how he just, he had a system. In that system, they had a structure, but he allowed freedom. He didn't really want to over control or complicate the game for his guys. Really leading into offense. He understood the makeup of the NBA player really, really well. And that is most of those guys got to the NBA being offensively driven players, so if you don't feed that in that part of their kind of, mentality and personality, then, they don't feel like they are who they are and how they got there. So he really leaned into offense, not to the level I would say D'Antoni did where he forsake defense. I mean, he had Elston Turner as his defensive coordinator in Houston when I was there, which is why, why I went after Elston when we had the chance, because he understands how to build a defense and not get upset about an offense that's going to be, maybe high risk, high reward. And, so there's no turf battle there. So,
that's so important.
Yeah. So, it's amazing coach, wonderful man, and he allowed me to join their little environment, and I'll be forever grateful.
Well, with Rick Adelman, and so many other coaches from back in the day, it's when I see a picture of him or some of these others, it causes me to wonder, why did all head coaches used to wear suits during games, and now it's team apparel? Now, granted, like you're wearing right now, as they can watch at KFAN.com. Cool team. It's cool team wear for sure, but the days of the snazzy seem to have gone by the wayside. Why and when did that happen?
In the bubble. It happened in the bubble.
That was it?
Yeah, it was in the bubble. Kind of.
So they were wearing suits up to 2019?
Absolutely.
Oh, geez. Yeah. I mean, I remember Flip always wearing suits. I can't remember with some of the others.
Yeah, it was in the bubble, and it was just a way to, there was, it was kind of make life a little bit easier, just, a good visual where there's not a lot of fans or no fans. So, and that it's all been a kind of a remnant of the bubble. And thankfully, I think it's the right move.
You lastly here for this segment, we're fortunate enough to have Chris for the first hour of the radio show. At 10 o'clock, we have a Minnesota Vikings press conference from Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center introducing new general manager Nolan Teasley. But yeah, Chris mentioned Elston Turner, and also on the staff, Pablo Prigioni, very well respected, both of them. Likewise for Micah Nori. And is it fair to call him your lead assistant, or is he your lead assistant?
He is, yes.
Okay, he's the 1A.
He's the 1A.
So with things that are being reported with openings in Dallas, Chicago, and Portland, truly, do you think you're going to lose your lead assistant to a head coaching opportunity?
I hope so.
Is he bugging you?
Yeah. Well, he bugs me every day.
Yeah,
but
right.
That's not the reason that
you guys are like brothers, man, aren't you?
Yeah, we've been together. We're very, very close. I owe him a lot. He's an incredible coach. He's an incredible compliment to our staff and myself in particular. And he's at this point in his career where he's ready, clearly ready, and he's had a couple really good shots the last few years, but hopefully this is his year. I know he's deep in the process in all those searches, and fingers crossed that he gets his chance.
Good for him. Yeah, I like Micah a lot. What are some intangibles Micah brings you that you feel could be attractive for other teams as the identity of the staff, the head coach?
Well, he is elite relationship builder. And he's got this way to connect with players all throughout the roster, and he does a really good job of being able to kind of clean up any messaging that might be misunderstood, keep players in a loose mindset, laugh and joke, but also be able to deliver the tough news too. He has leadership quality because I think he's been able to really, having worked his way up in the NBA from literally the video room, he's been at every level. So I think he has appreciation on how to manage a staff and what's going on at all the levels there.
That's inspiring.
But also, he now, when you're working your way up, you're very focused on where you've just come from and what you're doing now. But I think he now sees the game and the program from 30,000 feet, big picture stuff, like how are we trying to get where we're going, rather than just the minutia. A lot of assistants, as per their job role, they're worried about like the details of the game plan or the practice or whatever's immediately in front of them. I think he's been able to cast his lens a little longer now and see how the direction of the program needs to go.
Chris Finch, head coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves, in studio 9 to noon for the first hour of the presentation. We're going to get into his take on some off-season plans for the Timberwolves, some perceived off-season plans for the Timberwolves, and much more. That's going to take place around the corner. And all of that is what's on deck 9 to noon, courtesy of TimberTech and TimberTech.com. Maxwell Fuller produces, and I'm Paul Allen. Come back around the corner, hear more from the head coach of the Wolves, Chris Finch, on KFAN.
The takes don't stop when the mics turn off. Check out the KFAN YouTube channel for exclusive videos, in-depth takes, initials and password games, and behind-the-scenes content. Search KFAN on YouTube and hit subscribe today.
Finch, head coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves, in studio 9 to noon. Thank you, Prize Picks, but also thank you, Second Harvest Heartland. They have been the providers of Chris's inclusion 9 to noon pretty much for the last 5 years. T-Wolves have made the playoffs 5 consecutive years. We're going to get into that momentarily. But with Second Harvest Heartland and twoharvest.org, Chris is a board member with Second Harvest Heartland. What drives you to not only help Second Harvest Heartland, but just give generously the way you do?
I mean, it's simple, Paul. It's like it's an embarrassing problem in a modern society that we can't feed enough people. And I laugh at it not to make fun of the issue, but to make fun of ourselves that we can't figure this out. It's a math problem. We have more than enough food in this country, and we have an embarrassing amount of need. How are we not connecting the dots? And time and resources, are something that I have to be able to give to that problem and let the experts figure it out.
Yeah.
And if I can bring attention, and be a voice to it in any way, shape, or form, the people that I've had the pleasure of working alongside of the board or in leadership at Second Harvest or on the ground, troop level, delivering the food, they've all been amazing. And it's an inspiring place, an inspiring arena to work in every day, or loosely associated with. So, I'm very proud. It's a crown jewel of our community. Yeah. Second largest food bank in the United States, only outside, I think, of Brooklyn, which is, just a numbers game because of population when it comes to feeding people. But the reach here in the area is so large. And the most exciting thing is the innovation that comes from it. The innovation that other food banks around the United States are taking the ideas and running with it. And I mean, that's exciting because you're not only solving a daily problem, you're trying to solve problems, that are
recurring.
Exactly. And you're being smart and efficient about it. So,
and even a dollar helps. I mean, twoharvest.org. And,
$1 is 3 meals.
Yeah. With tremendous gratitude for Chris joining us. Thanks to Second Harvest Heartland. I and others that I know will contribute yearly. And it, may not be the grandest amount ever, but every little bit helps here. And twoharvest.org is where you can learn more about that. Twoharvest.org. You guys lost to the 2-1 favorites to win the NBA title. San Antonio's about a 2-1 favorite to win this thing. And it's just another year with a champion anew. With the Spurs or the Knicks winning it. You brought it up last year. It's like 8-9 consecutive years. Somebody different has won the NBA championship. Why does this keep happening? A new champ year after year.
Well, we talked a little bit about it. Injuries certainly play a part. The long season, the pace of play is high. Staying healthy and staying healthy through the run in the playoffs is certainly one of the reasons. I think also, the new CBA or the current CBA rather that's kind of limits roster construction and that. You've got to make choices, and a little bit more like football, you're going to have to lose some key pieces along the way. So being able to fill them in and evolve, but not lose your main core, that's tougher. And I just feel like style of play, and the variance that comes with that creates a little bit more opportunity for everybody. 3-point shot making, the game is kind of leveled out. People will say it's a little more homogeneous. It might be. There are differences based on, certain styles of play, but I do feel like just the more teams are playing more efficient gives them a better chance to be competitive when they do have the talent. And so I think there's a lot of things that go into it. But for me in my lifetime, we've been through dynastic eras. We've been through the Celtics and the Lakers and
the Bulls,
and growing up, as you know, it didn't get any better than Celtics Lakers.
No, the best.
Throw the Sixers in there, but
and the Hawks,
yeah, exactly.
With Dominique.
But I think right now the NBA is in the best position it's ever been.
Really,
it's a little bit like football, and I say this all the time.
It's not top heavy.
No, I don't believe so. I think I said all season that we had 7 champions in 7 years. We're going to have 8 and 8. And next year we're going to have 9 and 9.
Yeah.
I just firmly believe that. Like the betting on that is probably the easy thing to do.
Right.
Repeating is so hard. Denver was supposed to be a dynasty. Injuries and other things didn't happen. Boston was supposed to be a dynasty. Injuries and other things, it didn't happen. OKC was supposed to be a dynasty.
Yeah.
I actually laugh if you go back to the
Warriors had a little dynasty to it.
Well, remember when they were winning people were debating whether they were a dynasty. It's like, heck yeah, they're a dynasty. They won 3-4 championships in a short period of time. I don't know if we're going to see that like we had seen. And I think it's great because what everybody wants in sports is hope. Hope that you have a chance to win it.
Amen.
That is what is beautiful about the NFL. There's so many teams that have a chance to win it when the season starts.
Okay, so when do you think it's your turn? And how close do you think you are to elevating to that level?
Yeah, obviously the margins for error are super razor thin. We've got to continue to mature as a team, both as a group of individuals and also as a collective. We've got to just continue to take next steps. Our young players got to take next steps internally. We got to grow. We got to make a couple key acquisitions along the way. Got to stay healthy. The biggest thing is like in this era when you've had 8 champions in 8 years. Getting a seat at the table is the most important thing. You got to just keep sitting down at the table, and then something might break your way. There's a lot of hand wringing in the league right now with Wemby, and we had it a little bit with OKC. Oh, we're all playing for second. I don't believe that. No matter where I've been in the world, I've always figured if you're in the top 4 teams or the top 8 teams, you always are going to have a chance. You just got to keep putting yourself in that position. Now we got to do a little better when we get there, but just keep giving ourselves that chance.
All right. Well, 5 consecutive years in the playoffs for the Timberwolves, all led by Chris. And I know you're proud of that accomplishment. Does that half decade in any way feel like 100 years? You're winning a ton of games, but a lot goes into it.
Sure does. Yeah. Every season feels like 100 years. But it's great that when you get to the postseason, how time just stands still a little bit. You have time in between games. There's a
Booker running into your knee.
Yeah, you just have you actually can't wait to hurry up and play because you've made your changes. You're ready to play again. You just have to wait.
Well, just off what we just said about 5 consecutive years in the postseason, fantastic, winning a bunch of games, and takes a lot out of players, coaches, stuff like that. Does it leave you cold in any way? And what I mean is it's close. It's like the close but no cigar scenario. So how does your squad get over the hump and get to the finals?
I think it's habit building. I think at times this season our approach during the regular season wasn't where it needed to be. The downside of being in the playoffs and having 2 conference finals runs in back-to-back years is I think our players, we got a little bored. We were trying to hurry up and get to the postseason, and we didn't have the night-to-night juice that we always needed. And I think that's when the postseason came, we found it. We had other issues to deal with at that point in time, namely injuries. But and so I think the biggest lesson to learn is that we can't do that again. And hopefully we'll come into next season with that mindset, with a little bit more. I wouldn't say we were taking ourselves for granted, but it was hard to maintain the high level of consistency that we needed through the regular season, particularly in the West, where it's so difficult.
Well, OKC had to miss the playoffs 3 years to get really good. San Antonio missed it 6 to get really good. So, I mean, when they're doubling Wemby, not only does he see over every double, I mean, he's throwing to a handful of first-round picks, and they're all good. All the way back to De'Aaron Fox, first-rounder from 2017. So how do you balance, or is it even factual? You have to be really bad before you can get really good.
Well, I mean, Adam Silver just took a big swing at that philosophy. The interesting thing about this, PA, is if you look like the Western Conference Final that was just played out between San Antonio and Oklahoma City, two amazing organizations and great teams at the moment. Mm-hmm. Both of them have a foundation built on tanking. You know, San Antonio has the first.
Well, that goes back to Robinson Duncan.
Agreed. And so it goes back to Harden, Westbrook, and Durant.
Wow.
So, and all credit to them. They took advantage of the situation that they were in, and they've done it multiple times. And they have incredible cultures, incredible leadership, incredible coaching. But we're not going to see that anymore.
Right.
I mean, they asked me after Game 6, we were eliminated. They asked about player development and our young players and how it compared to what San Antonio was doing. I said, no disrespect, I'm a big believer in our young talent. They have the first, second, and fourth pick in the last few drafts. And those guys, and one of them is like we've never seen before.
Transcendent.
Yeah, transcendent. So, they've got like an incredible, high-level, ready-to-play now core.
Yeah. Final segment with Chris Finch coming up around the corner on KFAN.
You're listening live to Paul Allen and 9 to noon on iHeartRadio.
New Minnesota Vikings general manager Nolan Teasley is speaking to the media and subsequently the public. You'll hear that 9 to noon, about 10, 12 minutes from now. Final segment with Chris Finch, head coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves, begins like this. Do you expect you guys to be active in the trade market before next season?
Well, I think I do. Tim and his crew always do a really great job of canvassing the league in the run up to the draft. They Tim's the best I've ever seen at understanding like what everybody's trying to do in the market, whether it be trade deadline, draft, free agency, etc. And he's got incredible support by Mark and Alex. Our new ownership. It's been fun to watch them get their feet under the table and be active and making changes, little and big as well. And so I know they're very aggressive in being able to kind of keep pushing this thing forward. So, I do expect us to be. I don't know what the end result will be. If it'll be a lot of change. I mean, we love our core and we know we just need to keep adding to it a little bit. But I got utmost faith in Tim and his crew and Mark and Alex to be able to do it.
With respect to those currently on the roster, is it fair to say you need help for Anthony in the backcourt? Which, I mean, true point guard would be the proper way to define it. I don't want to disrespect Conley, even at this stage of his career, but is that fair to say?
It is fair to say. I think we need definitely need another ball handler and playmaker and somebody who can, initiate the offense, take the load off of Anthony, get Anthony back to his natural best spot. I think there's a lot of things that we gained by putting Anthony on the ball. I think there's a lot of things he learned by, having him on the ball. I think those things will pay off, in subsequent seasons, to be quite honest with you. So, and that's a silver lining. But there's no doubt we need somebody to kind of help him, and it just put too much on his plate.
How did things end this season with Julius? He skipped his exit deal with reporters, which is antithetical to what most people do.
Yeah, listen. I think Julius's struggles in the series against San Antonio were my struggles. It's incumbent upon me to find a way to get him going. I never really could. We just couldn't do it. Having said that, I thought he did a really good job guarding Wembanyama. I thought he did a really good job of playmaking. There was a game, I think it was game 3, he drove to the paint and kicked out 14 times, which is exactly what we were trying to do with him as a playmaker. We didn't make a single point off of those 14 kickouts. That's not on him. That's on us. He did the right thing. We just couldn't benefit from it. Every series is different. We talked about Mikal Bridges, they said it was one of the worst trades ever, and now he's averaging 20.
Right.
So every series is different. We preach that to our guys. Julius was really good for us in the Denver series, and he did a great job in a lot of the things that don't measure up in the stat sheet. So again, I think the criticism around, now we see it. Oh, Chet Holmgren was no good. I can't stand these overreactions and these
the strays just kind of dropping in.
I don't listen to it. I turn my TV off in the morning. During the playoffs, I don't want to hear it. It just ruins my enjoyment of the game.
Brad Childress, former head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, off what you just said, had one of the great press conference quotes I've ever heard off exactly what you just said. Taking the low-hanging fruit and just really squeezing whatever out of it. When he said to somebody, somebody asked a question, and he said, you're like that person who sits atop the hill and watches the battle and then comes down and shoots the wounded. Think about that.
That's great.
That's just perfect. It's analogous to what you just said.
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest here with UPA. It's one of the things I really admire and enjoy about you. Like, you'll question, but you're never critical or trying to kill anybody. You'll ask appropriate questions. Ultimately, you want your teams to do well, but you have an eye on what they're doing wrong. But you're never killing people, and I think that's a lost art in today's media, particularly somebody who has a show every day who feels that you're going to have to say things, on a daily basis.
I ain't here to shoot the wounded. Lastly, Terrence Shannon Jr. and Baron J. As they mature, specifically Baron J., where do you see him and them helping against some of these big dogs in the West?
Yeah, well, we saw what TJ, can do. It's good to see him back. I think, we finally found the best deployment of him. I think he's a guy who definitely, he's one of these guys who needs the ball in his hands more. And he played. I think he can play well alongside Anthony as the primary handler. So that, back to our question of 2 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the solution there internally, and he's just got to stay healthy and continue to build on what he did. When he played largely down the second half of the season, he was very, very impactful. And Johan, we're very excited about. Now we got to create a consistent role for him. He's got to stay out of foul trouble. He will as the game slows down and he learns these things. But it's a big summer for both of those guys.
Aaron Freeman, your media relations conduit, had to leave the room for a little bit with a high-level conversation with Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum. Just to catch you up to speed, we talked about Holiday and Williamson and Giannis and Kyrie, and we went down that road for about 4 minutes, but all's good and you don't have to blush. Love you very much, bud.
Appreciate it.
Have a great offseason. Thanks for the nice words. We'll stay in touch.
Okay, thanks, PA. Appreciate the support.
Chris Finch, head coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves. We head to the Vikings facility in Eagan to hear from new general manager Nolan Teasley next.